कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहम् श्रवणमङ्गलम् श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जना. So the Master's conversation with Ramakrishna is continuing. So we will proceed from the section where we have concluded in the last class. Sri Ramakrishna. God cannot be realized if there is the slightest attachment to the things of the world. A thread cannot pass through the eye of a needle if the tiniest fiber sticks out. So that's the criteria for the God realization, which we find is mentioned in the scriptures, and that's what is being resonated in the words of Sri Ramakrishna. That as long as there is even a trace of attachment, know it for certain, the God realization is not possible. So as we know that Sri Ramakrishna in some other context is indicating that when someone is asking, when shall I be free? So his reply used to be, when I cease to be. So when the I cease to be, then only we will find that all the attachments falls off. The sense of I, you will find that whatever I like in this life is all linked to that sense of ego. I like this, I like that, but all those are all hooked to the ego. So unless the ego falls off, there is no chance of all the desires to fall off. That in our life, when we find that some of the desires are manifested, vyakta vasana, and we think if I can take care of them, I will be desireless. But we forget that there are so many unmanifested desires, which is not disturbing me at the present. But when the circumstances changes, when I am placed in some other circumstances, all those desires, unmanifested desires, they evolve. They just come to the conscious mind and then they start disturbing us. And there can be such innumerable desires. If I think of getting rid of all those desires one by one, it is impossible. It can never be. Then what's the way out? That through our entire process of evolution, through the entire process of transmigration, we have acquired so many desires. They're all there, hidden in our psyche. And they will manifest at certain time, either in this life or in this next life. Then how to get rid of all of them? I cannot get rid of them one by one. So the idea is, if I can get rid of the ego, with which all the desires are attached, then all the desires will fall off at a time. So as we give that example, that our personality is like a wheel, where the hub of the wheel is our ego, and the spikes of the wheels are all the desires. Even if one or two spikes breaks, the wheel is still intact, because the other spikes are there to keep the wheel still intact. But if I remove the hub of the wheel, then all the spikes collapses at a time, and that's how the individuality, you go beyond the idea of this limited individuality. The texture of the limited individuality, the will of the limited individuality falls off. Now how to get rid of the I? So in bhakti, what's the way? As we have mentioned, that when through our spiritual discipline, at first is a Vaidhi bhakti, that I take a resolution that I will think of the divine. With this resolution, when I am repeating, this repetition of my practice, that gradually wires up my mind. And once the mind is a wiring, then I start liking it. The devotion grows. Then that real devotion, the Vaidhi Bhakti, becomes the Para Bhakti, the supreme devotion, where there is no need for your will. It's something spontaneous. And when that spontaneous devotion develops, and as its intensity develops, the focus becomes more and more. You will find that when you are focused to certain thing, you cannot register the other things. When I am just watching a tournament in the TV, some match in the TV, someone calls me, I don't hear. So what has happened, as I am focused in seeing something, and I am totally focused on it, so whatever sound from the external sound, it is entering my ear, but my mind is not registering it. Why? Because the mind is now focused to certain other things. So other things it cannot in any way process those information. So if the intensity of my focus becomes more and more, you will find that when you are very intensely busy with some work which you like, you'll find you forget all what to speak of external distraction, even your bodily needs. And I forget my hunger, that for hours together I will be busy with the profession or of something of my passion, whether it's art, whether it is music. I'm so engrossed that I forget that it is time for food. I forget I'm tired. I forget that it's time to sleep. I just enter into a state of flow. I'm so focused that all the bodily needs are like the biological alarms. They also are not registered. The last thing to fall off when the focus becomes intense is the ego. That we will find that is the basal portion of our focus. It is always there. That whether I am awake, whether I am dreaming, whether I am deep sleep, even in deep sleep it is there. Because when I wake up, I know that I was in deep sleep. Though in the deep sleep there was no awareness. I think there was no awareness, but there was awareness of nothingness. Otherwise, how would I have known that I was in deep sleep? I knew nothing when I wake up. So that the ego is something which is always there. And I can never get rid of it. But it's possible only in this deep meditation which results from that tremendous focus which comes from devotion. That at a time it so happens that the ego falls off. That even the ego, which is always there to always take a part of my mind, that also has fallen off. The entire mind is focused on the object of meditation. So what's that state called? That state is called the state of samadhi. The triputi bheda. Triputi means the triad collapses. What's the triad? Dhyana, dhyata, dheya. That when I'm meditating, even if I'm fully focused, still I am aware of three things. That I am meditating on certain object of meditation. That's the dheya. I am the dhyata. And the process of meditation is connecting me with the object of meditation. So these three I am aware of, however focused my mind may be. But when the ego falls off, then that I am meditating, the I has fallen off, that I am meditating, this idea is gone. You become as if one with the object of meditation. This triad of dhyana, dhyata, dheya falls off. And that's how, when you become one with the object of meditation, and that's the time the ego falls off. So now you will find that the moment the ego falls off, that all the desires which were hooked to the ego, they all at a once falls off. And that entails in your liberation. So whether it is bhakti or it is jnana, it is after all the removal of the annihilation of the ego which leads you to the ultimate realization. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna is saying that unless all the desires has vanished, even a trace of desire, if it is there, know it for certain, there cannot be God realization. Because God realization means the collapse of the ego, the falling off of the ego, which in turn speaks of the annihilation of all the desires, whether they are manifested or they are unmanifested. Everything is gone in a go, and that entails in that realization. So this again and again we repeat those stories, but these stories are very helpful to always relate to those lines, that Sri Ramakrishna said wonderful story, a very funny story, that a man was going to have a dip in the village pond, and suddenly he was just wearing the loincloth and was having the towel on his shoulder. And when he was about to leave, his wife called him and told, "You are so attached. What have you seen me in that so that you feel that I'm so attached?" Well, see the neighbor. He has developed renunciation. Well, what's the renunciation? Now he has 12 wives and he's renouncing them one by one. And then this man immediately responded, "You are foolish. Can anyone renounce one by one? Do you want to see renunciation?" And he immediately left house. Nobody knew where he went. He was just wearing the loincloth and the towel. He never came back to pack his belongings. Nothing left. Once for all. That's the renunciation. When it happens, everything is just renounced once for all. So that's the idea. That when the ego falls off, everything falls off in a flash. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna used to say. That when a room is dark, maybe for thousands of years, now when you just strike a match, you enter there, strike a match, will it take another 1,000 years for the darkness to vanish? No. Immediately it vanishes. The moment you strike, immediately vanishes. So that God relation speaks of that. The moment your mind is illumined by the vision, by the God realization, your ego falls off and all the darkness vanishes and all the desires, the petty desires, falls off. And that alone speaks of liberation. So now, these few lines again, let me read. God cannot be realized if there is the slightest attachment to the things of the world. A thread cannot pass through the eye of a needle if the tiniest fiber sticks out. The anger and lust of a man who has realized God are only appearances. They are like a burnt string. It looks like a string, but a mere puff blows it away. So we have seen that when I burn a rope, if you burn a rope, the burnt rope still will retain its texture. You can even see the threads, all burnt threads. It has maintained the exact texture of the rope. But can I tie anything with that rope? Impossible. The moment I want to just get hold of it, it is so brittle, it will immediately just become just a mass of ash, nothing else. But it looks like and gives an appearance that it is a rope. So Sri Ramakrishna is giving a nice example that for a man of realization, anger, lust of a man who has realized God are only appearances. They are like burnt string. It looks like a string, but a mere puff blows it away. What it speaks of? Very interesting thing. Even in neurology, there is a mental aberration, neurological aberration. It is called Capgras syndrome. That one day, fine morning, a person may get up and suddenly he may say, looking at his mother, that you look like my mother, but you are not my mother. You are impersonating as my mother. You are not my mother. And the mother feels surprised. What has happened to my son? And when they take to the doctor, they will say that he has developed this Capgras syndrome. What is it? Very interesting that all our perceptions are actually piecemeal perceptions. When I am seeing a flower, so give that example. The red color is perceived in one center in our brain. The texture that is perceived in some other center. Its shape in some other center. Its smell in some other center. Now all these will conglomerate together in the mind and projected as the flower. What I am perceiving is all piecemeal perceptions. The projection is the synthesized thing of the flower. That example which we give again and again, that in a theater, when I am watching the movie, I feel that as if in the screen the characters are speaking. But is it really the characters which are speaking in the screen? No. In the screen only the light is projected. The sound is coming from the sound box. But when they two enter through my ears and my eyes, I am seeing they are synthesized in my brain to give me a feeling that the character is speaking in the screen. So that's what the brain does. It is all synthesizing all the piecemeal perceptions. So it is not only synthesizing the piecemeal perceptions. Along with that, it is also synthesizing our feelings, our emotions. So when I see my mother, along with all the perceptions, the emotion also gets synthesized with it. Now, if because of some brain aberration it so happened that your feeling is not getting synthesized along with your perceptions, you will appear that yes, it's my mother. But as the feeling is not working out, you will feel no, it cannot be. I don't feel that love, that love for my mother. It must be some who is impersonating as my mother. It cannot be my mother. So that's what is known as the cab-crash syndrome. So that what happens as an aberration. It's a very wonderful thing for a spiritual practitioner. Through his meditation, when he goes to the state of samadhi, what has happened? All the desires has fallen off. So what has happened? His feelings related to the perceptions is no more there. Is no more there. So now he can be acting just like any other human being. He is living in this world just like a human being. As per his knowledge is concerned, he has knowledge of everything. There are two types of vrittis. One is jnana vritti and another is the klishta vritti. Jnana vritti, when I am looking at the table, no emotion is involved. When I love someone, an emotion is involved. So whenever my emotions, my feelings get involved, that becomes klishta vritti. So now for the moment that realization happens, all his vrittis becomes just jnana vritti. Just it gives knowledge, but it doesn't give that connection of the emotions are no more there. And then what happens? He looks like an ordinary being. If the need be that that someone has to be shown anger, as Sri Ramakrishna mentions the story of that snake, which was asked not to bite anyone, and then when it was injured, as it became non-violent, all started throwing stones on it. And when the monk came back, saw the emaciated snake and asked what has happened, then he told, you told me not to bite anyone. So I have stopped violence. And that's why people don't understand me. They just go on throwing stones on me. So that's why I cannot come out in the daytime. Only at night I eat on the dry leaves. And that's how I became emaciated. And then the monk told him, you are fool. I told you not to bite. But have I asked you not to hiss? So now you will understand that this anger and other things. When you are still in the world, you are living as a Jivan Mukta. And then maybe just even your disciples, for instructions, you have to show a trace of anger. As they say in Bengali, Shadhur Rag Joler Dag. Can you ever mark a line on the water? No. When you are marking a line on the water, immediately it vanishes. As long as you are marking, it seems that as if the line is formed, but immediately has vanished. So that's what the anger of a sadhu. It doesn't create any mark in your mind. This indelible mark it cannot create. It just as an appearance it comes, because the tremendous feelings and emotions which we have, it is not working from here anymore. He has gone beyond all those things. So now you will understand that why Sri Ramakrishna is saying that anger and lust of a man who has realized God are only appearances. There is no such that intense feeling, intense that sanskara, the indelible mark in his mind. They are like the burned string. It looks like a string, but a mere puff blows it away. God is realized as soon as the mind becomes free from attachment. Whatever appears in the pure mind is the voice of God. Now, what is this? What is meant by that? Whatever appears in the pure mind is the voice of God. So as we progress in spiritual life, as the desires start falling off, what happens? The first thing that happens is that all the bias starts falling off. All our desires results in all the bias. That wonderful story which we again and again repeat, that in the corner of a park there was a stump of a tree. The tree has fallen in the cyclone, only the stump is there. As per our desires, we develop bias. A thief who was running away from the police, so the fear of the police made him think from a distance in the twilight hours that the stump is, because the light, it was not well lighted, it was the twilight hours. So he thought from a distance the stump as the police. The police who was in search of the thief. See, as per your motivations, you create bias. The police thought it is a thief. A small child that was playing with his other children. Now it was dusk. It was time for the child to go back home. And it knew its mother must be waiting somewhere nearby. From a distance, the child saw the stump. It thought it to be the mother. The mother saw the stump and thought it to be the child. A lover was waiting for her beloved and he thought it to be the beloved. So this is the story in Vedanta. What it speaks of, that when I have these desires, my mind is bound to be biased and our visions are bound to be distorted. I can never have a very clear vision. For a man who has realized God, what it speaks of, all his desires has fallen off. The bias has fallen off. So what he sees is the clear vision, the thing as it is. There cannot be any falsehood there. It is just as it is, he is seeing. As Sri Ramakrishna gives another example, the two persons are playing chess and the third person is watching. Who is watching, he always takes the correct move. Why? Because the one who is watching has nothing to do with winning or losing. He has no expectations of winning. He has no fear of losing. So no bias. With his full mind, he is focusing on the game. He says the correct move. If he starts playing, he again will start faltering on his moves. But as long as he is a spectator, no bias is working. He says the correct move. So this speaks of the mind without any bias. The mind of the God, the pure mind, where no bias is working. But that's why Swamiji used to say that what's the definition of God? Unselfishness is God. You will never get such a wonderful definition of God anywhere. Whether you are a believer, whether you're a non-believer, even an atheist, he also believes that highest ideal is unselfishness. And those who are believing the theistic religion, they also think that it is to go beyond this petty I, which makes me one with the divine. So everywhere we find this idea, the falling off of the ego is related with the attainment of the spiritual state, the ideal state. And in that state, as all the desires has fallen off, your vision becomes clear. And that's the mind of God. So that's what he's saying, that as that which is God is realized as soon as the mind becomes free from attachment. Whatever appears in that pure mind is the voice of God. So that is the truth. There is no distortion in that. So that's the thing with Sri Ramakrishna. That is the voice of God. That which is pure mind is also pure buddhi. That again is pure Atman, because there is nothing pure but God. But in order to realize God, one must go beyond dharma and adharma. So these are very wonderful. This all, each and every word is, it appears so simple, but he's speaking of the very profound truth. It is coming out just like a flow, because he is a realized soul, that he is go beyond dharma and adharma. What it speaks of? That yes, when you have reached that stage, then dharma is also not there. What to speak of adharma? Because dharma is the thorn with which you have pricked out the thorn called adharma. That all our attachments, all our desires, that has been removed by your spirit-based meditation. That meditation also, this is meditation, devotion, this also is a part of this world. That is dharma. With this dharma, I am getting rid of adharma, which is taking me to that ultimate realization. When I go to that realization, the practice also falls off. The dharma with which you were integrating your life, that also is no more needed. When you have realized, you have crossed the shore, there is no need for the raft anymore. As Buddha used to say very nicely, that when you have crossed the river, would you you are on a raft, you are just on a raft crossing the river, and once you have crossed the river, would you carry the raft on your shoulder? Its work is over. So that's what is the idea of that dharma and adharma, that you go beyond the three gunas. I go beyond that. All rajas and tamas speaks of adharma. Sattva speaks of dharma, the pure meditation. With the help of sattva, I get rid of rajas and tamas. And at last, even the sattva has also to fall off. Even that's why Swami Vivekananda used to say a very nice thing, that in spiritual life, that even the liking for meditation, that also has to fall off. And once you have realized, he used to say very nicely, the golden chain is also a chain. That an iron chain is a chain, golden chain is also a chain. With both you can bind a person. So even the love, your attachment for meditation, that also is an attachment till it takes you to the realization. That also falls off. Attachment of meditation is very good till it takes you to the realization. When it has taken you to the realization, it has fallen off. Because the mind is now pure. There is no need for any meditation. You have become one with the object of your meditation. So meditation has fallen off. So there is no need for meditation. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna is saying that you go beyond dharma and adharma. So that which is pure mind is also pure buddhi. And that is again the pure Atman. Because when the mind becomes pure, the mind which has very distracted thought, it has become pure, then what happens? Your buddhi, your resolutions becomes pure. Because now you are convinced. You had lot of options in your mind, lot of doubts. All thing by your constant cogitation has vanished. You have purified your mind. Now that your mind has only one thought that speaks of the single thought that speaks of the pure buddhi, the intellect. Because in the scriptures they say nishchayatmika buddhi, that sankalpa vikalpatmak mana, that when there are many options, that is the mind. When all the options has fallen off, now I am sticking to that one idea, that becomes the buddhi. And that buddhi, that I am the self, or I am the devotee of God, that takes me to that realization. Then what happens? The mind as if merges in the absolute. So the mind has become one with the absolute. There is no more mind anymore. When you have realized that the I has fallen, you have become, your mind itself has taken the form of the object of your meditation. You have become one with that. So the mind has merged in the absolute. So that's why he's saying that which is pure mind is also pure buddhi. That again is the pure Atman. Because there is nothing pure but God. So that's the thing. When all your distractions falls off. So this awareness, the pure awareness which remains. Everything is linked to the pure awareness. We just get rid of all the associations. What remains is that pure awareness. And that's what has been spoken of as the God. So when you have reached that, you have gone beyond dharma as well as adharma. That these ideas are wonderfully spoken of by Sri Ramakrishna in some other context. He speaks of 3 dacoits. Very nice story. That one person was passing through the forest, and suddenly 3 dacoits came and got hold of him. And he just, whatever wealth he had, that they just seized all his property, all his wealth, all his money. And then one of them told, now what is the use of just keeping him alive? Let's kill him. And the second told, why to kill him? Let us just tie him nicely with a tree and let him be there. We did not kill him. We just tie him with a tree. So all the 3 agreed. So they tied him nicely with a tree with a rope and they left. And after some time, the third dacoit, he came back. He came back and told, oh, it must be hurting you. They have tied you. If you are left this way, you are going to die, because after all, you won't get food. The animals may attack you. Come, let me release you. So what he did, then he opened the rope, and then he told, you will be lost in this forest. If I don't guide you out of this forest, you will be lost. Come, I will help you. I will show you the way. So he shows us the way, and then almost at the fringe of the forest, from where the village can be seen at a distance. So this third dacoit now shows him the way. So it points to that. See, the village is seen that long distance, at a distance. So now it's safe for you. Now you can go. Now this man felt a bit obliged, that after all he has helped him to find the way. He has released him. So he told, why not you to come with me? Spend the night with me. Be my guest. Just have the dinner with me. Spend the night. And then tomorrow you can come back. And then the third dacoit told, no, there is no way. I cannot go. Because the police is always in search of me. I will be arrested. So Now my domain is still this forest. Now you go. So after telling this story, Sri Ramakrishna is saying, the one dacoit who told, kill him, he is tamasic. You will find that the one who is full of tamas, he destroys his life because of his laziness, because of his slothness, because of indolence. He can in no way integrate his life. Those is full of activity, rajas, that binds us, that we, with our ambitions, wealth, name, fame, all those binds us. So that's why he told, tie him. And then sattva is the third dacoit who opened the bond and who showed him the way, went to the fringe of the forest. But his domain is up to there. He cannot go to the village. The village is the ultimate, your state of the pure Atman. Even he cannot go there. He just shows you the way and then he leaves. So that's the idea. Dharma, this is the third dacoit speaks of that dharma. He is the one who shows you the way. He helps you to move out spirally outwards. Tamasa and rajas takes you spirally downwards in this world of Maya, entangles you, and the dharma shows you the way. But when you have reached the shore, there is no use of that also. That also falls off. So you have removed the thorn with the help of another thorn. So that's the idea which Sri Ramakrishna is speaking of in this verse. And then the master sang in melodious voice, come, let us go for a walk, O mind, to Kali, the wish-fulfilling tree, and there beneath it gather the four fruits of life. This so that's the thing, that when you start proceeding in the spiritual life, so one by one all the purusharthas you fulfill, this dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Dharma, this all the things what it speaks of, that in even as a brahmachari, as a young person, the only thing which is taught is dharma. In the olden days, the education was not gathering of information. It was just the soft skills, that how to lead the life in an integrated way. That even when you are in the world, you can have some sort of detachment. So that's what was taught to the students, the young ones. So with that dharma, now you enter the life of a grihastha, the grihastha, householder. Now you are entitled for acquiring wealth, for having the sunset pleasures of life. This artha and kama with dharma. So why that dharma is important? That otherwise I will be resorting to some immoral ways of earning wealth, of having the pleasures of life. So here that discipline is there. With that integrity of dharma, now I resort to artha and kama. If I do with dharma, then what happens? After some time, I will reach a plateau. I get all the so-called the happiness of life, which the life can give me. And then the big question marks come. What after that? What we call the midlife crisis. What after this? So if I have led a very integrated life, then this question can lead me to that spiritual, to open up the spiritual dimension of my life, leading to moksha, liberation. So that's why they are saying that when you are walking on the path of the divine, it's not only moksha. This is the beauty of our Vedic scriptures, the Vedanta, that he is saying there are four purusharthas: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Gradually evolve. Just you first learn how to integrate your life with so-called the moral conducts. If you live the life as with the moral conducts, and your life is regulated by all those so-called the values, then you earn wealth, you enjoy the sunset pleasures of life, you have the right to do so. But this will gradually season you, give you that sense of that what you say, purposelessness, that what after that I have attained, is that after that the life, what it is there, that now that jara, vyadhi, mrityu is bound to be there, disease, death, what I did in my life, has it given me any permanent fulfillment? No. Then that big question comes, and then that from that crisis the spiritual portal opens up, taking you to the moksha. But if I'm leading an unintegrated life, immoral life, external circumstances will be so much disturbing. There is no question of attaining that clarity of your mind for the higher pursuits of life. So that's why dharma has to guide your pursuit for artha and kama, and then naturally it will lead you to the path of liberation. So that's why the path means when you are leading a journey, Godward journey, then only it is possible to have fulfillment this in the form of these four purusharthas. That's what Sri Ramakrishna is indicating through that song. Come, let us go for a walk, O mind, to Kali, the wish-fulfilling tree, and there beneath it gather the four fruits of life. The four fruits means this dharma, artha, kama, moksha. About 9:30 in the morning, Pranakrishna took leave of the master. Soon afterwards, a minstrel sang some devotional songs to the accompaniment of a stringed instrument. The master was listening to the songs when Kedar Chatterjee, a householder devotee, entered the room clad in his office clothes. He was a man of devotional temperament and cherished the attitude of the gopis of Vrindavan. Words about God would make him weep. The sight of Kedar awakened in the master's mind the episode of Vrindavan in Sri Krishna's life. Intoxicated with divine love, the master stood up and sang, addressing Kedar, Tell me, friend, how far is the grove where Krishna, my beloved, dwells? His fragrance reaches me even here, but I am tired and can walk no farther. So, these songs are also very significant. Tell me, friend, how far is the grove where Krishna, my beloved, dwells? His fragrance reaches me even here, but I am tired and can walk no farther. So the mention of Krishna's fragrance reaching Radha suggests that it is an almost feeling of the tangible presence of the divine. This evokes the idea that even without seeing Krishna, Radha can feel the presence in a subtle, pervasive way. It's very interesting. Sri Ramakrishna has a very poetic way of depicting this. He says, you know what this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that even in the Vaishnava tradition, it is their firm conviction that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the avatar, is the manifestation, is the divine incarnation of Krishna. Not only Krishna, Radha and Krishna both together has manifested in the body of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Sri Ramakrishna used to depict in a wonderful way. He used to say, you know, in the episode of Krishna and Radha, you will find that Radha had so much intense devotion for Krishna. He always wanted to be united with Krishna. But the society was there, always there as a hindrance. They won't allow. There was a lot of hindrance in meeting Krishna. So now Radha had one day just prayed to Krishna that why not you hide yourself in my heart so that you are always with me but no one can see you. So that way my desire will be fulfilled to be always with you. Now Krishna being the God, he is the one who can fulfill our desire. And the Sri Ramakrishna, how nicely poetically he is saying that to fulfill the Radha's desire, so he was born again as the united Radha and Krishna in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he used to say he is Bahik Radha Antak Krishna. Externally he is Radha, inside he is Krishna. Why external Radha? You will find that he is called Gaura. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is called Gaura. That denomination is called Gaudiya Sampradaya. Gaudiya. Why Gaudiya? Because they are the follower of Gaura. And Gaura in Sanskrit means one who is having a bright complexion. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a very bright complexion. The complexion of gold, golden complexion. He was a Gaura, just like Radha. Krishna was dark, but Radha was Gaura. She was having a golden complexion, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So outwardly Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was like Radha. But always he was hankering for Krishna. What Sri Ramakrishna is saying? That now Krishna has listened to her prayer. He is now always there inside Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Outwardly he is like Radha, inwardly that Krishna is there. And now he always wants to have the vision of Krishna. But now, as it is she only who prayed, that be in my heart, be hidden in my heart. Now Krishna won't come out. And that's the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That intense viraha, to see Krishna, to see the form. He sees in a flash, and again it goes. And he will be in extreme viraha, constantly thinking of Krishna. So that's the idea of the fragrance of Krishna. You are as if smelling, you are feeling his presence, but you cannot see him. Just see, these poems are wonderful. It speaks a lot. And that's why this gospel needs discussion. If you read these plain words, it will feel it has a meaning, but that meaning won't come out. It's speaking of that viraha dasha of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that Krishna is inside. He feels her presence always with her, with him, Chaitanya, but the fragrance is there, but he cannot as if see him. And then he says, I am tired and can walk no farther. So this speaks of the desire for immediate spiritual experience, but the challenge of achieving it, that viraha, that makes him exhausted. That's what says me, that's the sense he's saying, that I am tired and can walk no farther. So now let us read those few lines again. You will find what a wonderful meaning actually is hidden on those lines. Tell me, friend, how far is the grove where Krishna, my beloved, dwells? His fragrance reaches me even here, and I am tired and can walk no farther. So then Sri Ramakrishna assumed the attitude of Sri Radha to Krishna. See, just say that, as the song indicates that, and went into deep samadhi while singing the song. He stood there, still as a picture on canvas, with tears of divine joy running down his cheeks. Kedar knelt before the master. After a time, the master regained consciousness of the relative world. Soon Kedar took his leave and returned to his office in Calcutta. At midday, Ramlal brought the master a plate of food that had been offered in the Kali temple. Like a child, he ate a little of everything. Later in the afternoon, several Marwari devotees entered the master's room, where Rakhal and Aim also were seated. A Marwari devotee, Sir, what is the way? Master, there are two ways. One is the path of discrimination, the other is that of love. Discrimination means to know the distinction between the real and the unreal. God alone is the real and permanent substance. All else is illusory and impermanent. The magician alone is real. Sorry. His magic is illusory. This is discrimination. Discrimination and renunciation. Discrimination means to know the distinction between the real and the unreal. Renunciation means to have dispassion for the things of the world. One cannot acquire them all of a sudden. They must be practiced every day. One must renounce woman and gold mentally at first. Then by the will of God, one can renounce it both mentally and outwardly. So renunciation is a must. But what he's saying, that even when I am in a family, when I am leading a householder's life, I can practice renunciation, but that renunciation is the inward renunciation. Outwardly, I cannot renounce. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna is indicating, that God, when the God wills, then you can renounce both mentally and outwardly. So to renounce outwardly, why Sri Ramakrishna is saying that? There are so many other factors that speaks of God's blessing. There are so many factors should coincide, then only you can renounce outwardly. Inwardly we can do by our own will, but for outward renunciation you need God's grace. Why? So that you may have tremendous dispassion even when you are young and you have not entered the family life. Then it's easy to renounce. Just see, if you have developed dispassion after you have entered the family, then almost it is impossible to renounce now, because you have responsibilities. So many factors. That is one factor, that you have developed dispassion in proper time. So when you are yet to enter into the family, at that time It's easy for you because you have no responsibilities. You can easily renounce. Not only that, he should be of a person of good health. That's in the scriptures, Ashishta, Balishta, Dharishta. Man of good character, good health. Because if you are sick, always sick, how can you go through that assiduous spiritual practices and journey? It's impossible. So you should have good health. In proper time, the renunciation should have dawned in your life. And not only that, the social norms of a society also matters. That you will find that the society goes through a lot of changes. It is so easy to become a monk in India, but with the idea of with the faith totally vanishing in the Western world, you'll find that most of the population is atheistic. That the social trend becomes something different. You will find someone was pointing me out that to see a young Christian monk nun is rare. It's very rare because no one in the society is getting that inspiration to really become monk and nun, because the society has changed in such matters. So you'll find the social norms of a society also matters, and then your own personal health, your character, at the time of your life, at what time. So all this should coincide. Then only you can think of renouncing outwardly. So that's why he's saying one cannot, that they must be practiced. One should renounce woman God mentally at first, then by will of God. So this will of God is important. That is not in my hand, it is Daiva. That all those external factors, they should coalesce, they should come. Then only that outward renunciation is possible. Otherwise, it is not possible. So that's what this is. That Daiva thing is being called as the will of God. So it is not in my hand, however I may try. So then the next word of Sri Ramakrishna is indicating that if the social norms for becoming a monk is not there, then it's so difficult to really become a monk. So that's you will find in the next lines of Sri Ramakrishna. What he's saying? It is impossible to ask the people of Calcutta to renounce all for the sake of God. Because in that time the society was such, the Babu culture, full of that luxury and bhoga. That was the only goal of life in the time of Sri Ramakrishna. As he used to say, where Sri Ramakrishna said, when I go out, I see all the persons have nimna drishti. They're just looking just down. No one has urdhva drishti. Means what he indicated, that all are engrossed in this worldly way of life. They never think of the spiritual dimension of their existence. So that's the vogue, that's the culture at that time. So to speak of spirituality is something that was a taboo. No one speaks. So now in that type of society, to speak or to think of becoming a monk, to renounce outwardly, becomes very difficult. So that's what he's saying. It is almost impossible to ask the people of Calcutta to renounce all for the sake of God. One has to tell them to renounce mentally. Okay, so that if you find any inclination, yes, try to practice spirituality in such a way that there is no show of it. Do it mentally. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna is indicating. Constant, this practice is urged. Through the discipline of constant practice, one is able to give up attachment to woman and gold. That is what the Gita says. By practice, one acquires uncommon power of mind. Then one doesn't find it difficult to subdue the sense organs and to bring anger, lust, and the like under control. Such a man behaves like a tortoise, which once it has stuck in its limbs, never puts them out. You cannot make the tortoise put its limb out again, though you chop it to pieces with an axe. So that's the example Sri Ramakrishna is giving from Bhagavad Gita, that the reflex changes. When the desires falls off, then what happens? That for us, when the objects of desires are out there, we as if move, our limbs move outwards to grab them. But when the tortoise is in danger, you will find that the limbs are drawn inside. So Sri Ramakrishna is saying that for a man of realization, the so-called worldly pleasures are something very dangerous. They will bind him. So like a tortoise, it simply withdraws its limbs inside the shell, as has been spoken of in the Bhagavad Gita. It's that in the 58th verse of the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Yada sangharate chayam kurmongani va sarvasha indriyani indriyarthebhyas tasya pragya pratishtita. Like kurmo, like the tortoise, one who can withdraw the senses from the sense objects, thinking them to be the danger. So he alone can be said to be have established in in pragya, tasya pragya pratishtita. He is established in wisdom. So he alone is established in wisdom who can do that. And that's what Sri Ramakrishna is indicating. So that through the discipline of constant practice, one is able to give up attachment to woman and gold. So when you know that the world is unreal, God alone is real, and the more you practice detachment, all the impulses, our so-called reflexes, starts changing. As I mean in the last class we were indicating, even in the life of Sri Ramakrishna we find that during his sadhana, thinking wealth to be something trash, it's of no use for the God realization. He used to take a lump of clay and just mix it with the currency notes and throw it in the Ganga, saying that both are worthless. The currency notes are as worthless as a clod of mud, nothing else, clod of soil. He used to throw them. And this was so intensely internalized that his total nervous association with the ideas have changed. As Swami Vivekananda used to say, education is nothing but the nervous association of ideas. His nerve got associated with this idea so intensely that renunciation became something spontaneous. That even unknowingly, if he would touch, his hand would touch any coin, any metal, he immediately will feel as if he has been stung by a scorpion. He used to feel that terrible pain, and immediately his hand will be recoiled. His body will be recoiled from there. So reflexes have changed. That speaks of this, like the tortoise. Yada sangharate chayam kurmunganiva. Just like a tortoise, instead of moving out, sensing all the sense objects as danger, it recoils its limb within itself. And that's what is being spoken of by Sri Ramakrishna. Marwari devotee, Revered Sir, you just mentioned two paths. What is the other path? Master, the path of bhakti, or zealous love of God. The word zealous is important. There's very intense love, zealous love of God. Weep for God in solitude with a restless soul and ask Him to reveal Himself to you. Cry to your mother Shyama with a real cry of mind, and how can she hold herself from you? Marwari devotee, sir, what is the meaning of the worship of the personal God, and what is the meaning of God without form or attribute? Master, as you recall your father by his photograph, so likewise the worship of the image reveals in a flash the nature of reality. So what it is speaking of? So then when I see the photograph of my father, all the memories of his association, of my association with him, just by seeing the photo, this entire thing comes into my mind, isn't it? So similarly, the image is also there to enkindle the ideas of divinity. When one is seeing the idol of the divinity, he never thinks it is just an idol made of clay or made of stone. But he thinks it is God who is eternal, was, he is, will be. I am in eternal association with him. Is there any devotee who thinks he is worshipping just a clod of clay or a stone? No. It is just there to enkindle the suggestion related with the idea of God. Just the way the photo of the Father immediately enkindles all your association with him. Here also this simple image of that divinity enkindles your eternal companionship with the divine. It is just a suggestion. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. That what is the meaning of God with form and or attribute, without form or attribute? That's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. As you recall your father by his photograph, so likewise the worship of the image reveals in a flash the nature of reality. Do you know what God with form is like? Like bubbles rising on the expanse of water. Various divine forms are seen to rise out of the great akash of consciousness. The incarnation of God is one of these forms. The primal energy sports, as it were, through the activities of a divine incarnation. So that's the wonderful idea, the Catholicity of Hinduism. That it's not, they never speak of the only prophet. No, there is no idea of this God and his only prophet or the last prophet. In no way we limit the God's power of manifesting himself. When I say he is the only prophet, as if I'm limiting God. He can manifest whenever he feels the need be, anytime, in any place, in any circumstances. He can, and he has done out of his compassion for ages. He has incarnated in so many forms, and that's being indicated by Sri Ramakrishna here, like bubbles rising on an expanse of water. Various divine forms are seen to rise out of the great akash of consciousness. The incarnation of God is one of these forms. The primal energy sports, as it were, through the activities of a divine incarnation. So that's the idea we find even in the Bhagavatam. They say, there's a verse in which it is mentioned, Avatara hi asankhaya, innumerable avatars. That not only one or two or just the last or the only. Innumerable. We never say that he's the only. There is a chance of this, there is scope for manifestation in every age. So there's avatara hi asankhaya. So when Krishna was one day walking with Arjuna, and Arjuna was praying Krishna, was extolling Krishna as the incarnation of the divine. And then Krishna told him, come with me. And from a distance, he showed him some fruits in a tree. From a distance, it appeared as a single fruit. As they went near, they find actually it was a vine, the grapevine. There were many grapes in a grapevine, many grapes. So he says, it is not only me. There are so many avatars. Each grape, the dark grape, indicates the avatar. And it's the entire cluster, the entire vine is the indication that the divine incarnates again and again in so many forms, in so many places, in the various phases of our time and history. So that's the idea which we find in the Bhagavatam. And that's what Sri Ramakrishna is indicating here. What is there in mere scholarship, God can be attained by crying to him with a longing heart. There is no need to know many things. So that's what just now we were indicating. That generally we have the idea that education means that accumulation of information. So Swamiji is saying that education is not the gathering of information. So nowadays there is no need. In internet, anything you search, you get immediately. There is no need for a moving library. So to have all the information in your mind has no value in this present age. No one will come to you for information. They will simply go and search in the Google and they immediately get all the information. There is no need for such person. That's why Swami Vivekananda 100 years back have mentioned that education doesn't mean accumulation of this information. What it is, a real education? It is take up one idea, leave it, dream it, let that idea become your part and parcel of your life. You assimilate that idea and transform your life. And he used to give the example of a mollusk which, when irritated by a sand particle, dives deep into the ocean and start salivating over that irritant, that sand particle, till that his salivation saturates and crystallizes to form the pearl. He says that's the transformation. That one sand particle is that the idea, one spiritual idea you take. There is no need to know many things. Take it and just live your life by cogitating upon it. Salivate on it. Their thought is the salivation. Go on cogitating upon it. And then that will transform your life. And that's what Sri Ramakrishna is indicating. That what is the need for knowing many things? That God can be attained by crying to him with a longing heart. When you have longing, that gives you the focus. That focus helps you to enter into a state of flow. That at last helps you in falling off of the ego, that takes you to the state of samadhi, and then you become one with the divine. This is the journey. What's the need of knowing too many things? Just have that longing, which will give you that focus. The focus will give you that flow, enter into the flow. The ego will fall off with your intense meditation. That will take you to that realization. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. What is there in mere scholarship, God can be attained by crying to Him with a longing heart. There is no need to know many things. He who is an acharya has to know different things. One needs a sword and shield to kill others, but to kill oneself, a needle or a nail knife suffices. So what Sri is speaking, to convince others, one needs to resort to reasoning from various perspectives. You may come with a question and you with a particular perspective. I should have the knowledge to answer you from all the perspectives from which the questions may be asked. So for an acharya, for the one who has to teach others, he has to go through all the study of the scriptures and all. But for realizing God, only that conviction, God is, I am, my only goal is to attain the divine in this life. With that, nothing more knowledge is required. Everything just happens in time. With that simple faith, one enters into the spiritual journey without any deviation and takes him directly to that realization. That's why Sri Ramakrishna in many places have told that guilelessness, sharolata, that's something one gets only by the grace of the divine. It is so difficult to have that guilelessness, to have simple faith that what the Guru has said, I take that word to be true and simply dive into the spiritual, into my practices without going through all those reasoning. It can take me directly to that God realization. But at the same time, it is a fact that though it takes you to the realization, but it helps you. But if God wills that through you, others has to be helped, then of course, He will make you to know the various perspectives. The Acharya has to know the knowledge from various perspectives so that he can deal with the others' doubt and clarify it and help them in showing other way. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna is saying that for an Acharya, the one who is a teacher, he has to know different things. But one needs a sword and shield to kill others. To kill others, you need a lot of things, armor and all. But to kill oneself, a needle or a nail knife suffices. Just with a needle or with a nail knife, you just cut the artery and that's sufficient. So you can kill yourself. But to kill others, you need a lot of armor. So what nice example Sri Ramakrishna is giving. That means that to convince others, I need a lot of this knowledge, so that I can convince him from various perspectives. But for my own realization, just faith is sufficient. With that, I can go to the highest realization just without resorting to any such scriptures. One ultimately discovers God by trying to know who this I is. Is this I the flesh, the bones, the blood, or the marrow? Is it the mind or the buddhi? Analyzing this, you realize at last that you are none of this. This is called the process of neti. Not this, not this. So he has asked for this. What are the ways? First he spoke of bhakti and now he's speaking of jnana. By negating everything, at last you comprehend that you are the self. You are beyond all the attributes. So that's the thing Sri Ramakrishna is saying. So this chapter is almost at the end. Just a few more paragraphs are remaining. We will take up it in the next class and we will start with a new chapter in the next class after finishing those few lines which Sri Ramakrishna is speaking in this next paragraph. So with this, we conclude our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskar.